she did it. Thank you, Reverend Pat, but I remembered. Listen, welcome everybody to Froggy Friday. Reverend Gwen Smith and myself, Barbara Samuel, we are so thrilled that you are all here. My favorite part of Froggy Friday is when we kibitz at the beginning, when nobody or not everybody is here yet, and we get to share a little bit of life and community and love. Today we have a beautiful opportunity to receive, as I said earlier, the wisdom and just the beauty of Reverend Eileen Brownell. She is incredible. So we are going to open, as we do with all things when we sing this song, and then we're going to go into treatment, and Reverend Eileen will give the opening treatment today in a very special way. So if you will join me right where you are in singing our community song, One People. We are one people, one strong heartbeat, just one spirit shining bright within us all. We are part of one another. We're born to love each other. When it's all said and done, we are one. Reverend Gwen, will you jump in?
We are one people, one strong heartbeat, just one spirit shining bright within us all. We are part of one another, born to love each other. When it's all said and done, we are one.
Okay, I'm going to get you to sing it. Unplug, everybody. Let's sing it. We are one people, one strong heartbeat, just one spirit shine bright within us all. We are part of one another, born to love each other. When it's all said and done, we are one. When it's all said and done, everybody go spirit ringers. One. Yay!
Come on, let's see the hands. Woo!
Thank you for joining us in song. How's everybody doing today? Give me a thumbs up. Show me the love. Okay, so we're going to jump right into it because we've got to share about classes. We've got to share about all sorts of things. But right now, we're going to share with our incredible Reverend Eileen. If you would open us up, please, Reverend Eileen, and jump right into your talk.
Oh, you want me to do a talk before I do my prayer, or you tell me?
No, I don't. Oh, I want your treatment first, your prayer first, friend.
Okay.
And then just jump right in.
Okay. Well, today's lesson is about prayer. And so I wanted to share a special rendition or translation of New Thought of Lord's Prayer. So join with me in that prayer. Our Father who is everywhere, let your name be set apart. Come your kingdom and your counsel. Let your desire be as in the universe, also on the earth. Provide us our needful bread from day to day, and free us from our offenses, as also we have freed our offenders. And do not let us enter into temptation, but separate us from error. For belongs to you the kingdom, the power, and the song and praise, from all ages, throughout all ages, sealed in trust, truth, and faithfulness. Before I start the Sunday lesson, what I'd like to do is, Gwen, would you show those pictures real quick so that they've got a concept?
Sure.
I'm going to open with a story, and this is in America. We have several rivers that are really rapid and fast. And this shows you a lot of us crazy people go on what we call river rafting rides. And I wanted you to have a concept of what that looked like before I tell the opening story on this with our lesson today. So if you want to leave that picture up, we can while I get started with this for story. So I know none of you have been river rafting, but I have. I've been on about 3 different river rafting trips, and I love it because it's so exciting. They rate the rapids by 1 through 6. And they won't let people ride the 6s, but they will let us ride the 4s and the 5s. And to get on those 4 and 5 rapids, it's just so exhilarating. I absolutely love it. It's like the spray from the water in your face and the chill of the water and the feeling of your heart just pounding like crazy in your chest. And truly, it's an exciting ride. For me, it's like riding a roller coaster that just absolutely never ends. Dr. Christine Hubbard, in the book A Blessing in Disguise, tells her experience of riding the rapids in Colorado. She was on the Colorado River, and she had gone with her husband David and some friends, and they were going for a 3-day journey of riding the rapids. Now, they were just looking for fun in the sun and a little bit of water and a way to cool off. Well, the very first day they were out on the raft, one of the things that had transpired was she was in the front of that raft. And she just was spending the time kind of lollygagging along, enjoying the scenery and the nature and the amazement of it. And the challenge was she should have been paying attention to the change in the river. And the raft hit all of a sudden a series of rapids, and her boat was suddenly hit by a rogue wave, and all of a sudden she was thrown out of the raft. Initially, she thought, well, this is kind of fun. I'm getting to float down the river with my body, and this is really a big charge. And, what do I have to worry about? I've got my life jacket on. There's no sweat about this. And she made absolutely no attempt to get back into the boat. And within a matter of minutes, they hit a series of a dangerous and continual white water. And the raft moved rapidly forward with lightning speed. Now her husband, out of fear, jumped out of the raft wanting to save her. And the guide made him get back in, because after all, there had been drownings on this river and he didn't want to lose 2 people. And within seconds, the raft was out of sight. She couldn't see them any longer. And so for the next mile, Christine was alone, and she was fighting to keep from drowning. The continuous whirlpools and the spinning water just kept sucking her under the water over and over and over again. And sometimes she couldn't even catch her breath from one being pulled under to the next being pulled under. And she was absolutely terrified. Her thoughts turned to survival. And as she felt like a pinball in a pinball machine being bounced around and hit off rocks and thrown down under, she just didn't know what to do with this gauntlet of whirlpools. At some point, she crossed from that place of survival into acceptance that she was going to die. She didn't have the strength to fight anymore. She didn't have the strength to continue. And so it was then that she began to pray. And as she put it, I prayed real hard. And at some point, something inside of her said it would be okay for her to die. And it was then that she began to truly surrender to her surroundings and to what was happening to her. She was at peace. And she knew that she didn't have to struggle anymore. And it was then that she felt the hot sun upon her freezing skin and realized that her body felt an enormous rock underneath her. And then she realized there was no way she could ever have gotten onto that boulder alone or without assistance. Later, she knew that divine grace had helped lift her up and get her on that rock. As she continued to write about her experience, Christine understood that through this experience and her prayer, she had learned several things. The first one was basic trust. The second one was that we all have our own inner resources to heal and help ourselves on any journey or with any illness or anything that transpires within our life. And that it's okay to risk and be vulnerable with ourselves and with others. and that we need to stay in the present moment at all times. She also suggested that we stop and hear the still small voice that speaks to us within, and to pray each and every day, because that grounds us and keeps us centered and keeps us in that present moment. So why are all of these lessons about prayer so important? Why do the lessons matter not only for Christine, but for each and every one of us? Because prayer is not a button to be pushed. It's a relationship to be pursued. Prayer is a way to share our life with God. And I'm sure you've heard from many of us that the only way God has of experiencing life is through each and every one of us. And through prayer, God gets to know us, and we have an experience of the divine. Prayer puts our hopes and our fears into words. And when Christine was getting bounced around like a pinball, I'm sure she didn't stop and think about the eloquence of her prayer. And if she was saying it correctly, in fact, I'm sure it was more something like, God, I'm in trouble. Please help me. Please save me. Amen. I don't even think she probably said amen. It was just a plea that she had. Author Irvin Seal states, a prayer is never the words you use. Prayer is the movement of spirit within you toward the accomplishment of your desires. And at that point in Christine's journey, she just wanted to survive. I had a mentor one time who explained that she and her husband hit black ice. Now, if you know anything about snow, roads can have what are known as black ice. It's ice that you can't see, ice that you don't know exists. And they hit that black ice and they began to skid. And as they skidded, they were headed towards the side of the road to a drop. As she puts it, she just kept yelling, oh God, no, oh God, no. And that was her prayer. It was spontaneous, it was sincere, it was natural, it came from her heart. In a fraction of a second, her husband righted the car and they went on their way. Our founder, Ernest Holmes, tells us, treatment is not for the purpose of making things happen. It is to provide within ourselves an avenue through which they may happen. Part of providing the opening for something to happen is believing that it can and will become our reality. In Mark 11:24, it states, Jesus said, anything you pray for and ask, believe that you will receive it and it will be done for you. Sound familiar? It's the law of belief, as Holmes puts it. When we pray, we need to believe that we are stating what we already know is our reality. Praying is more than just a simple technique or saying something repeatedly until it becomes stale and old and we don't even focus on what we are saying anymore. When was the last time that you said the Lord's Prayer? Did you really focus on what you were saying, or did your mind wander to your grocery list or what you needed to do that day? Did the Lord's Prayer still reach in and tug at your heart? Did you feel your connection to Spirit? Remember, it's not the technique that's important. It's the connection to God, the connection to the divine. It's the opening of our heart to receive. There's an old Buddhist story about a monk in India who practiced his prayers well. And he knew the exact words and the inflection that he needed to provide. And he was almost smug about his prayer life. One day he was traveling down the river and he noticed off on the hillside that there was a farmer. And as the farmer was working his field, he was singing and praying his prayers. Now the farmer was off key and his words were in not the exact right and correct order. And so the monk, of course, being the wonderful person that he was, decided to go help the man with his prayers. And so he pulled his boat off of the river to the side, and he approached the farmer and he said, "Excuse me, I noticed that you're praying and you're praying all wrong. And let me tell you how you're really supposed to pray." And the monk, who was known as a perfectionist, so he carefully described the exact words, the exact tone, the timing, and the distance between each word as you were to say the prayer. After all, he wanted the farmer to pray perfectly. The farmer thanked him profusely, and the monk returned to his boat and he headed on down the river. And he was pretty darn proud of himself for teaching this humble little farmer the real value of prayer. As the boat began to drift down the river, all of a sudden he heard a noise behind him, and he turned and he looked. And here was the farmer running as fast as he could on top of the water, trying to catch up with him. "Excuse me," said the farmer, "I couldn't get the prayer you taught me right. Will you please teach me again?" I'm sure you can imagine the surprised look on the monk's face. It was probably much like the disciples who watched Jesus walking on water. The sincerity of our prayers means more than any technique that you will ever use. It's our sincerity that grounds us spiritually. We do that through keeping our mind in a loving state. When we are in that loving state, we become God's instrument of love to everyone around us. It is that feeling of love that we want as the foundation of every prayer we utter. Prayers from the heart are really about our truth. Now, Christine's truth was that she was scared, and initially she wanted to survive. That was her truth. And in treatment, the third step is realization. This is about our truth, and our truth is in the present moment, right here, right now. We embrace that we already are what we're seeking, as we know our truth is in this sacred moment right now. It is here that we state and know the truth that there's absolutely no place that God is not. God is everywhere. And it is also here that we dare to claim all there is in our life, according to Dr. Holmes. Prayer is also about changing ourselves. Thomas Troward expressed, "But all the time there has been no change in universal spirit. The only change has been in the mental attitude of the individual. He has come into a new thought, a clearer perception of God. God is over all, through all, and in all. And he realizes that God is the root of his own being, ever present in him, ever working through him, and universally present around him." We change when we pray every day. We become more centered. We come back to that sacred moment right here, right now, not 10, 20, or 30 minutes from now, but right here in this moment now. Prayer changes our thinking into a greater expression of our own experience. Catherine Ponder puts it, prayer is soul stretching. We cannot help but grow and change when our soul is stretched. As a teenager, my family lived in the state of Maine. Now, that's on the East Coast, for those of you who don't know where it is. And often during the summer, we went to a seaside town that was called Old Orchard Beach, and it had a long a boardwalk on it, which was something that went out over the ocean. So people could walk out, and on that boardwalk were shops and games to be played and food to be had. And one place was a candy store where they made saltwater taffy. Now, if you don't know what saltwater taffy is, it's a small little piece of candy that's kind of chewy, and it has a different flavor, and it is so good. And my family loved saltwater taffy. And we would stand beside the window. And at that time, there wasn't a machine to pull the taffy. And so two people would start with this huge, big lump of taffy. And one of them on one side, one on the other, and they would pull it, and then they bring it back together again. And then they pull it apart and they bring it back together again. And each time that they would pull it apart, it would stretch a little bit more. And so it wasn't this big lump anymore. It began to stretch out, and it would get thinner and thinner and thinner. And that's what they did for probably about a half an hour with this huge lump, was just kept pulling and putting it back together, and they stretched, and they started out very close together. And before you knew it, they were a good 12 feet from each other. And then they would lay what they had started from this lump down on a big slab of marble, and they would cut that pieces of taffy down into tiny little pieces and wrap it in paper. And we are the same thing when we stretch. We change from a large, unformed lump into a small morsel of love and joy that's guided divinely by God. Romans 12:12 tells us, rejoice in hope, be patient in tribulation, be constant in prayer. Our every thought is a prayer. Our expression of gratitude is a prayer. Just like my spiritual teacher prayed, oh God, no, think of every word that you state as a prayer. Prayer shatters negativity in our mind that may linger from past experiences that we have had. Yes, we have a very powerful prayer in our treatment process. Ask anybody who has ever experienced a demonstration, who has been the benefactor of someone treating for them. They'll tell you just how powerful our prayer process is. However, don't limit yourself if you have never learned the 5-step process. Remember, prayer is about creating your sacred relationship with the beloved, with our God. It's about our own inner change that transpires in each and every one of us. Prayer releases energy into the universe, and that in turn is linked with God's energy. Pray without ceasing, and see what happens within you and those around you that you love. We must apply what we know about prayer in order to grow and to change. Knowledge without practice keeps us in the same place day after day after day. Remember, prayer is not a button to be pushed. It is a relationship to be pursued. We can't pursue any relationship if we're not willing to work at it. Set aside time for your practice. Start small. You don't have to sit there for an hour. Begin with just 5 minutes, but focus during that 5 minutes maybe on one person or one thing, and commit to doing it each and every day at the same time, if at all possible. Create a sacred space for yourself, for your prayer work. Maybe you want a candle there, or a picture of someone or something that you feel personally connected to you and to the divine. It could be a rock from a hike that you've taken, or a pressed flower. It must mean something to you. Create in your sacred space, in other words, your own little altar. If you haven't taken a class that teaches you how to do science of mind treatment, make the commitment to do it now. If you don't, Gwen and Barbara will get after you. This will certainly expand your knowledge and help you with the interchange process. In the meantime, know that your words are exactly what need to be said. The important thing is your commitment to the time, to change, and to your own inner growth as you deepen your relationship with God through prayer. Whenever I find myself in a position that I don't know what to say or what to do, I always return to a prayer that I say, that I've learned to use as a police chaplain. God, I don't know what to say or do right now, but the Christ in me does. It is that process for me of surrendering and knowing that I am one with God and that it's not about me. It's about the individual I am going to help. Since prayer is a way for us to move into a state of being with the divine, it's also about a connection of energy. Spend a few minutes doing some deep breaths and to release and let go of anything that's helter-skelter from the day or that's getting in your way of being centered. One of my favorite processes that I do when I'm trying to get centered is to breathe in with God is and exhale with I am. And I continue that until I begin to feel settled down and in that place that I am one with God. It connects me to the present moment and clears my mind. After all, God is all there is and is everywhere. Find a prayer partner. Praying with another one is so important. It is a wonderful feeling knowing that until you meet again, you are praying for each other on a daily basis. This too will nurture your prayer practice. Be sure to stay in a place of gratitude. We end our prayer treatments in Science of Mind with gratitude, but it's so important to be in gratitude all the time. Master Eckhart stated, if the only prayer you ever say is thank you, it will be enough. You can begin and end each day with in the state of gratitude. It keeps you centered and in a thought process that is positive. And remember, whatever we are grateful for in our life continues to multiply. On my daily walk with my puppy dogs, I always start with gratitude for all that I have in my life. There was a farmer in the Midwest here in America who had a well that provided crisp and clean and clear water that had always served his family and his animals. And one day he decided that he was going to expand his farm. He was going to start to grow corn because after all, this was the Midwest and that's where corn and wheat and other things were grown. And so he called in a man to ask him if his well was big enough to provide the water that he would need still for his family and for his animals, but now for his crops. And the expert told him, no, needed a bigger well, needed to get it away from where it was. And so the farmer agreed, and he decided that he would go with what it said to him. And they capped off the old well and they built a new one to bring all the water that they needed for the farm. Several years later, he yearned for the crisp, clean, clear water of that old well that he had. And so he went out and he uncapped it and looked down in. And what did he find? Dried up dirt. It wasn't even mud. Unused, the well had become dried up. And when it wasn't used regularly, the little riverlets that go out from the bottom and nurture that well that drew water deep from the earth had collapsed. Much like that well, if we don't reach out to the divine within our relationships with God and with others will run dry. It is our task to listen to God's words of wisdom as well as share our life with the divine. Remember, prayer is not a button to be pushed. It's a relationship to be pursued. And that relationship is with God. This is the truth in my life, and this is the truth in yours. And so it is. Amen.
And so it is. Amen. Woo-hoo!
And so it is.
Reverend
So it is.
Eileen,
Amen.
playing us. Wow, girl. Way to go. Thank you so much. So many nuggets. You just said prayer is a relationship to be pursued. I wrote that down, as well as prayer is soul stretching. And I will never get that analogy of
the taffy. It's so true, though. It's so true. From this one big lump comes hundreds of tiny little pieces of taffy. And we would stand there and we'd watch these people pull it up. And they'd start out with this lump and they would be this close together. And by the time they would end, they were about 12 feet across from each other. And now we've got machines that do it. And I look at those machines and I go, Go back to pulling it by hand. It's more fun to see.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
Oh, that
Thank
was
you
magnificent.
so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
That was
Welcome.
amazing. Everybody inspired? Do you want to unmute and have any comments, any questions? There was a couple quotes there. I didn't have anything to write down with, but there was one in the beginning about spirit moving through us, about the divine moving through us. That's prayer, is that movement of spirit through us. Near the beginning. It was very good. Anybody else have a comment, favorite line that Eileen said, or something you want to share about your own life and your own prayer work, manifestations?
Well, maybe we should sing a little and let them get inspired, Gwen.
Sure.
Okay, I'll share the screen. Do you want to sing this song?
I'll do the first verse and then you can jump in on the second verse. How's that?
Okay.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am. Letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. It's a love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
When I lose myself, when it seems I've lost my way, when I go inside and quiet my mind, I can hear Spirit gently say, there is only love. There is only love. It's a love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. It's a love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
Love is a prayer. Anyone? Open up your mic and let us hear. Hi, Karis, Nancy. Who else? Irene. Oh my goodness, I haven't seen you forever, Irene. We have got practitioners. Pardon?
I thought you were
Is that
done.
Duke?
I was going to say there's some wonderful comments in the chat. So maybe the folks that put the comments in the chat could unmute and share what they put in the chat and maybe expand on it a little bit, because not everybody can see the chat, I don't think. George had something wonderful to say, and I believe that James had something wonderful to say, and Duke.
Hello. Yes, this James.
George, is this your first Froggy Friday?
Yes, this is my first Froggy Friday, and I'm really, really excited. So happy with the sermon. And Eileen, there's something that I've learned today, that a prayer is not just a button to be pushed, but a relationship to be pursued. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
That moved me too. Yeah.
And James, I'm sorry I cut you off.
Yes, in fact, that presentation by Reverend Eileen, to me, it was a real storm. It swept me off the ground. It was so logical, well researched, quite moving, and it was just but wonderful, because I don't have words sufficient enough actually to express the impact they had on me. In fact, that which appeals to me most is always the logic behind all this, and I found each and every logic in it, the flow in it, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to Eileen for that wonderful presentation. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank
No.
you. Thank you so much for those words of kindness, James. Thank you.
It was awesome.
Well, and as
Thank
we're
you.
inspired and in that inspirational place, and Reverend Eileen said it herself, you know, we should get in classes, we should be in community and share. Reverend Gwen, why don't you share a little information about classes?
Well, practitioner 1 and practitioner 2 classes have already started. We've got some of our students on here today. Really hold them high, because they are on a real big spiritual path and journey and self-awareness path. We've got Science of Mind 101s starting at the end of the month on the 29th, Wednesday. Reverend Pat and myself are teaching it. We've already got 9 students, which is really awesome. I did a discovery class on the 8th of September, and we had new people, new interests, curiosity, wonder and awe. So it's exciting going into the fall and getting back into classes and being back with you. I've missed you all over the summer. I know we need a break, but at the same time, it makes the getting back together even sweeter. We have Reverend Eileen, who is going to, and there's 103 class, Science of Mind 103. And I'm not sure what day it starts. It's on a Sunday, but it's coming soon. And Nancy, do you know when? 103? And then Reverend Eileen is doing the spiritual economics, phenomenal course. And that is going to be October 18th. That's a Monday.
Yep. And that's going to go till December 13th. That's a 9-week class that we're going to do. So,
and if you want to grow your prosperity consciousness, your abundance consciousness, this is the class for you.
Yeah.
And that's what we want for Kenya. We want to pull you out of that race consciousness of poverty and lack and poor. So lift you up.
And
yeah.
And can I add to that this would be a great class if you've got an adult daughter or son who is having financial troubles, they know nothing about science of mind, bring them to see this class. Or if you've got a friend that's having financial problems, bring them to this class. You know, let's introduce them, because this isn't about science of mind. It's about God and your prosperity. You know, that's what it's all about. So it's really a phenomenon. I've taken it twice and I've taught it twice, I think it's how many times I've taught it. So this is be a great introductory class for people who are having challenges financially. Doesn't have to be somebody from the center. So think about somebody that you know is having a problem with their finances and invite them to come. Let's have a big class.
Yeah. And anybody else, like Terry wants to take it or Jerry wants to take it, you're more than welcome to join in. That's for sure. Now that you're retired, Terry, you might want a little more play money. So yeah, it'll be a really exciting class. And Reverend Eileen is getting helped with Reverend Pat on that course, and it will be phenomenal. It's a great opportunity to be in Eileen's class, Reverend Eileen's
I know
class.
that class changed my life.
Yeah.
Changed my life.
And you didn't need to be a religious scientist to understand that. That's why I'm saying invite friends.
It's true. However, I became aware of it because of my spiritual community.
Yeah.
but anybody can take it. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. This is a great class for young adults or, again, like I said, people who are having challenges financially.
And it's
Nelson,
always a
everybody
good
you live
reminder.
with, bring them to the class.
Even
You've
if
got
you
all these, like you're young. You're like 17 or something?
I'm
Nelson?
24.
24.
Again,
Nelson,
perfect
this
age.
class is made for you.
Yeah, I'm taking 103 class, and today has just been amazing because I've learned many things. I find peace in everything that you do here. Actually, it has been my first Froggy Friday to join, and it's just inspiring about prayer. You've taught about prayer, so thank you so much for blessing us all.
Aw.
Oh, yes. That's so
And-
beautiful, Nelson. And listen, our next Froggy Friday is October 1st. So mark it on your calendar now. Friday, October 1st. I think I'm sharing information on that day. I think I'll have to look at my schedule, but Reverend Gwen and I will both be there, and
Yep.
we look forward to seeing you all with us. It is our
Always.
time to come together in community. Hey, let's do some affirmations together. So this is the moment where we get to unmute ourselves. I'm going to say the affirmation, or Reverend Gwen, why don't you say them? You say them first and we'll repeat them after you. Do you have access to them? I have them on my board here for you.
Okay, bring them up,
Okay.
please. Yeah,
So
thank
everybody
you.
unplug. And we'll listen to Reverend Gwen say it, and then we'll say what she says.
So come with me. Take that deep breath in and do these affirmations together with me. Divine grace lifts
Grace lifts
me up and is always
and
one with
always
me.
one with me.
Divine grace.
Grace
Lift
lifts
me
me
up.
up, is always one
Always
with
one
me.
with
Always
me.
one with me. Prayer is a relationship I pursue.
Prayer is a relationship I
I
pursue.
Pursue.
Truth and I are one in this sacred moment.
Truth
and
I
I
want
want
in
in
this
this
In this
sacred
sacred
moment.
moment.
God is, I am.
God
God is,
I
I
I am.
am.
Before you go on, can I share this with them? Because I want them to see this. I want them
Yeah.
to see this fully. Many of you when I visited with you in the 20s, outside of one of the museums that Connie took us to, I purchased material, and this was the material that I purchased and came back, and a friend of mine that was also on the trip, she made this scarf or vestment that ministers wear. And I partially got it because of all the hearts and all the connections with all the hearts in Kenya that I had. And so I wore it special today and I've worn it at my own center or my own church several times. But I was just so pleased when I finally found this. I was afraid I wasn't going to find the material I wanted. And there it was outside the museum. So this was in honor of you today, because you reached out with all your hearts and you just touched me so much. So every time I wear this, I think of all my connections with Kenya. So here.
Beautiful.
Bravo.
Kevin, you made it. Kevin is, I believe, pretty new. Okay, he's not going to talk.
I finally made it. Yeah, I'm talking.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice to have you here.
sorry,
Nice to have you here. Good.
Nice to. Yeah, I'm really enjoying the though I'm late.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We'll see you in class.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. See you then.
So is everybody good? Everybody's filled up?
Filled up.
Overflowing.
This energy and this
Exactly.
wisdom into
Yes.
our next day, into our next moments, and share it with the world.
You're not going to be able to sleep tonight. You're too excited.
Reverend Eileen, thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
coming to share
You're
your
welcome.
wisdom, your joy. I said it
Yeah.
at the beginning, often imitated, never duplicated. You are a one and only, sweet friend, one and only. We love
Well,
you.
thank you.
Please come
Love
back
you
and
guys
visit
too.
us
Aw.
again.
Well, anytime you want me, I'm available.
Thanks. We're going to hold you to that. Okay, everyone, go forth and shine the love and light that you are. Peace and blessings.
Mwah.
Guys.
Love, love, love. We'll see you at 11,
Bye.
Jerry.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.